So how do you handle dropships in Battletech? That's what we're going to explore from a narrative perspective. As always, looking to capture the narrative of Battletech on the tabletop, but not take it too far where we get caught in lots of bookkeeping and maintenance and kind of lose sight of the fact that we're trying to create this simulation. We're trying to create this space outside of space and time on the table with some awesome miniatures and some awesome terrain or very, very interesting Tactica hex maps. So certainly in the narrative, dropships are some extremely valuable tech, and they're vital tech. That's how you're getting to the planet, whether it's part of a mercenary force that might have access to it or availability of a ride from one of the houses, or part of a larger planetary invasion. That's the primary delivery system for mechs. So we have this duality here in the narrative where dropships are vital, but they're not really replaceable at all. I mean, if you look at that narrative, they're even more rare than mechs. And there's this kind of understanding where would you target a dropship or not? But also in targeting a dropship, think about the value behind it. And we use the narrative to try and drive some of the examples of the game, some of the possibilities. Let's say you could destroy a dropship. That would certainly be a crippling blow to whatever faction or house that it is. But imagine a little bit more of a risk if you were able to capture a dropship, intact or even partially intact. They are so rare and so valuable, that seems to supersede just flat out destroying them. So how do we represent this in the game? I have one of the early classic hex map packs with the cardboard tokens, and there's a cardboard token for a dropship. I think it's Overlord class. Or is it a Union? Well, it's one of those. It's kind of the medium-sized, ball-sized class dropships. We also have various miniatures. This is where 3D printing is just absolutely, in a very positive way, blowing up the entire Battletech scene. If you have access to a 3D printer or through various means, there are numerous dropships that you can print and play and utilize. So with that, why not print up a dropship or model up a dropship and use it in your game? Now, how would I use that? I would use that as an interactive terrain piece. I mean, certainly you could put it down on the table, mark it as impassable, and essentially don't assign any value to it in terms of damage that it can take, sort of the city fight, city tech rules, and put some mechs around it and play your scenario out, right? Some mechs just landed and you're going about. I'd want to take advantage of that a little bit more because there are tech sheets, technical readouts for the dropships. Imagine if you could utilize that dropship in your game, because they do have various weapons and systems about them, and play it in the rules where if you cause X amount of damage, now what that is, we'd have to look. If you cause X amount of damage, then the dropship kind of powers down and becomes inert, inactive, because they're not going to risk it anymore, so they're going to stop firing. How you equate that with battle value, kind of figure that out in the moment. So now you would have essentially a fortified bunker that has various weapon systems that your opponent could fight, but they'd have to be careful about doing it. You might even have a mission where they need to capture a dropship, where if you can take its armor and systems down to, say, 75%, it potentially surrenders. If it goes more than that, or critical systems are damaged or it's destroyed, then at that point you fail the mission. So I would look to definitely utilize the stats, the technical readouts, and have this as a part of my game. You could even so much, with a little bit of playing back and forth, if you have a big enough hex map, work on landing the dropship. I mean, imagine that would be a lot of fun to play with. If you were part of a planetary invasion and you have a dropship where it's going to drop in a lance or two to capture this city. So you have your city fight, city tech, and maybe you have a spaceport, maybe you have an open park, maybe you have some places to land on the outskirts. It's not just like one area to land. Ahead of time, the defender would set up their forces where they're going to deploy, where they want to go, hidden, of course. And the attacker in the dropship now ahead of time would pick where they're going to land. And as they're coming in, maybe there's 2 or 3 rounds using combat for air units where it could shoot and lay down firepower. and then it lands on that spot and starts to deploy out. And then from there, the game begins. So a lot of options to explore. If I had access to a dropship, I absolutely would use it. And I wouldn't be that concerned about getting the rules 100% correct. I would kind of, with my opponent in that moment, kind of agree on some things. The chance to put that down on the table, the chance to explore it, especially if it's a big 3D printed model. I think Ironwind currently has a resin model, resin plastic model up there also. They're out there. They're in the wild. The chance to play that and utilize that would be a lot of fun, and I would jump on that. So similar to your miniature collection, what I always try to do, what I'd like to challenge us as the Battletech community, look at what you have. Look at what I have. Let's come together. Let's figure out how we can use our miniatures in Battletech, and if the rules don't support it 100% or if they're too complex, how could we simplify it? If we have access to other models or specific terrain, then let's come up with something. Let's create that narrative. Let's do it. And dropships are certainly one of those aspects in Battletech, very rare, very valuable, very important. So it would make sense to have some sort of representation and some sort of interaction in the game.